Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes to really wherever our whims take us. A little while back on this channel we met the iconic Batgirl Barbara Gordon. However, as mentioned in that video, she was not the first Batgirl. That honor instead went to the oft-forgotten, even though she has returned since in various forms, Bette Kane. She has also returned as Batgirl, but she's also been Flamebird, confusingly enough. Yeah, there's been some interesting attempts to bring her back into canon, in a way that A makes sense and B makes her stick. But what was her first appearance like? What was it about her? What happened that only led to her having 6 appearances in between 1961 and 1964 when she vanished? Well, in order to figure that out, we're gonna have to meet her. But before we get started, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, join us on this comic book journey. Come, bounce around the multiverse. So Bette Kane's first appearance as both herself and Batgirl, sometimes those can be different things, was in Batman number 139 in 1961. She was created by Bill Finger and Sheldon Moldoff, so she actually appeared several years after the debut of Batwoman. Batwoman had debuted in Detective Comics number 233 back in 1956, the latter having been created to combat rumors that were swirling around the dynamic duo. This was thanks to Frederick Wertham's book, drumroll please, you know what it is if you've been here for a while, Seduction of the Innocent, which put forth some salacious claims about many a character, and the damage it could/would do to one's psyche to read these comics. He also had some specific things to say about Robin and his costume, and about drawing all eyes to the crotch. It's quite the read, but actually, you know, it's decently expensive to get these days. Like dropping 80 to 100 bucks on a book just so you can armchair read it and yell at it, that's an investment. You get back to the dollar bin section, Seduction of the Innocent. Because of all this, many people believe that Batgirl was created for the same reason, to be a romantic foil for Robin. So romantic interest for Batman, romantic interest for Robin. Problem solved. Problem. However, others feel that because of the gap of years in between Batwoman and Batgirl, this was simply an attempt to parallel the success of Robin. You know, give Batwoman her own sidekick. However, neither character was exactly burning the house down, so again, some lean towards the first explanation. Issue 139, go! Batgirl, or Batgirl, is featured prominently on the cover. Batman, Robin, and Batwoman meet Batgirl. Don't worry, Batgirl will save you. I'm always worried when people swing in on curtains that lightly secured, but that's just me. I've seen some pretty weak curtains. This comic features a couple of Batman stories, and this meeting Batgirl one is actually the last one. The first one involves Signal Man trying to change his identity to the Blue Bowman. This is to confound Batman with his archery skills. And not gonna lie, I got way more enjoyment out of it than I should have. Alright, let's do this. Enough hype. Let's meet Batgirl. I'm ready. I'm pumped. Criminals, beware. A new crime fighter is coming your way. You thought you had trouble battling Batman and Robin. You thought you had to be wary of Batwoman. But not that you had trouble. But wait till you come up against a pretty teenager. That doesn't sound how they want it to sound. You'd better scram, take it on a lamb, because here she comes, Batgirl. It almost turned to like a spoken word poem at the end there. I think we need some period appropriate snapping. Although I guess depending on where you are, still appropriate snapping at the time of this recording. That self-inflating balloon should catch them off guard, so I can lasso them with my bat rope. Ah yes, a criminal's worst fear, balloons. It's Gotham. They all float there. Our comic starts for real with Batman, Robin, and Batwoman. They're fighting the Cobra Gang. This is all the latest exhibit of new scientific equipment. What kind of equipment? Who cares? It's new. Stop asking questions. Who wants to see the old equipment? You go down to the Metropolis Museum with that attitude. There's still another one loose around here, Batman. We better find him.
Great Scott! He turned the electronic ring on us.
Aw, early Cobra Gang costumes. I'm glad as time went on they could afford a bit of a better budget for everybody in the gang. Look at how stiff that cape looks. So much starch. Don't worry everybody, Batgirl will take care of him. This member of Cobra Gang was unprepared for a pretty teenager, so she's able to stun him with a double kick, somehow swing back up with the same amount of momentum, and Batman takes them out, and Robin has a "who's that girl" moment. Who is that girl? Later, as Batwoman, puzzled by the girl's identity, returns to her lair. Well, did I do all right, Aunt Kathy? Betty, so it's you. So little note that doesn't really matter, but is just interesting. Betty at this point is spelled B-E-T-T-Y, but they would change it to B-E-T-T-E, which with my Canadian Duolingo upbringing, I can't stop saying as Bet in my head the first time. It's like a training exercise. Betty, who is this amazing teenager? I never knew this word had a hyphen. I'm learning. I've learned about this hyphen and also to be afraid of pretty teenagers. So how did Betty get here? Well, she came to visit her wealthy heiress aunt, Bette Kane, who took her in for a visit despite knowing that she was gonna have to balance her nighttime activities. So surprise, surprise, she doesn't. Identity exposed. I wonder where Aunt Kathy goes every night. If she's dating a special person, why doesn't he ever call for her here? That's right, you judge this fictional boyfriend, Betty. However, while she's musing about this special person, there's a news report about Batwoman that she's watching.
Surprising thieves robbing the safe of a manufacturer of school supplies. Batwoman instantly went into action.
Why did they need school supplies? Are they setting up an underground crime school? I need to know. Are we depriving the youth of their supplies?
As the thugs fell back, upsetting cartons of gold stars, Batwoman followed to make the capture.
Aw, cartons of gold stars. That's very optimistic of them. Betty figured out that her aunt was Batwoman because when she went and borrowed her hairbrush, a bunch of gold stars fell out of it. And since she already admired Batwoman, she decided, wow, I can do that too. So I secretly made myself a costume and tonight I trailed you. Well, I mean, you added a cape and a belt to a dress. Points for the mask though, little bat belt. Batwoman is horrified because she feels that crime fighting is too dangerous for her niece. So she goes to get advice from Batman, because who better to ask advice from than a man who can't meet a teenager without making them a sidekick.
The first thing you want to do is make sure they all have the same name and similar costumes.
Gosh, Batman, an inexperienced girl is bound to get hurt pursuing crooks. There's a lot of school supply theft rings out there. None of her pencils are safe.
Batwoman, you pretend you'll allow her to be Batgirl, but only after a lot of training. Just like I do with Robin, he still only comes along to get me coffee.
So Batwoman decides this is what she'll do. She'll stall her by training her until her visit is over. However, her visit, it just seems to be never ending. They just say day after day, there's no end date. She's staying here forever. It's one of those visits. Also, Betty's no fool. She knows that she's being put off, so she decides to take things into her own hands. This shoe was taken by one of the Cobra gang arrested by the police. So she decides to go full CSI and do an analysis on the shoe. Cellulose acetate. I read about it in school. That's used in the manufacture of gunpowder, rayon, and other products. You know what this calls for? A gold star. I'll bet their hideout is a place that once used cellulose. So Aunt Kathy thinks I'm not ready yet, huh? I'll show her. Batgirl will search everywhere until she locates the Cobra Gang hideout. Spite, the most powerful of heroic motivations. Thankfully, searching everywhere does not take that long, and she finds them that same night. Also, the head of Cobra Gang is called King Cobra. That brings me much joy. And it must bring him a lot of joy too, because that's the only way you could commit to an outfit like that. Still riding that I'll show her high, Betty decides that she's gonna go in alone, not wait for or even call backup. This self-inflating balloon from my crime compact will startle them. Okay, 1, crime compact. 2, self-inflating balloon. It just seems like an odd choice. I can't help but keep coming back to it. They'll never escape this balloon. However, the balloon backfires spectacularly when King Cobra accidentally bursts it because his cigar touches it. And he remembers that it was Batgirl who caused his gang to be captured. So the head of this vicious gang has this poor, inexperienced crime fighter in his grasp. What does he do? He locks her in a room without any restraints. She has to think about what she did. We'll lock her in this old office and keep her as a hostage to force Batman to release our pals from jail. And again, they just leave her there. Just nothing, not even a courtesy tie. I'd be so insulted. At least, come on, a pity handcuff to at least make you feel dangerous. At first, Betty just cries about how her aunt was right. But little did they know that Betty is an expert at arts and crafts. They left some black carbon paper on the table and some scissors, and that's all Betty needs to cut them into bat shapes and send them out the vent.
Paper bats? It's some kind of bat signal. I'd better call the police about this.
And so thanks to that one newspaper boy's phone call, Batman, Robin, and Batwoman converge on the hideout, but not the police, even though that's who he called.
Hold it. I've got a gun on her.
He had a gun and her offense was a balloon. Her aunt was right, she wasn't ready. Oh, I'm so frightened. I feel faint. Oh, drop it. Ow. I don't know, I just love that he yelled ow, even though it's a perfectly logical thing to yell. There's something about it. Just, ow. How am I doing, Robin? Not bad. For a girl. Listen, Dick, are you okay? I mean, actually, wait. In that issue later on, when they meet Barbara, Batman says nearly the same thing, so no, this makes a lot of sense. And so they defeat the Cobra Gang, and Betty vows not to be foolish, but her aunt tells her no, she actually did a pretty good job, and maybe they can team up again. She's got potential. Oh, I can hardly wait, and perhaps Robin and I can work on a case together too. Well, Robin, is it a date? Oh, listen, Betty. Robin's not interested. He still thinks you have cooties. So that was Batgirl, Bette Kane, and it was fine. It's just pretty middle of the road. I didn't find it rage-inducing or share Carmine Infantino's thoughts that she's just a pesky, annoying girl version of Robin. Although again, I could see why you would think that. But she kind of feels just there. Like she had some traits, she was smart and determined, but she still fell a little flat. And the plot was pretty cookie cutter too. And that flirting with Robin comes right out of nowhere. It hits you like a bus. Greetings, fellow youth. I see you too are a pretty teenager. It's really interesting seeing the difference in this story, comic formatting, everything, and Barbara's origins in 1967. It's such a different vibe. I can see why editor Julius Schwartz, when he took over, would come to find some of these characters outdated and cheesy and just kind of make them vanish. Although in Batwoman's case, he had her killed. I mean, Betty's pretty harmless, so I can see why people also tried to bring her back. There is a kernel of potential there. There's some Tim Drake-ness in her whole I'm gonna make a sidekick of myself attitude. Honestly, in my humble opinion, I think she actually had a pretty good arc during the New 52. Even though, yeah, it was dark and bloody because everything was edgy. What did you think of this intro? Was she just an annoying girl Robin to you? Or do you think she could have gone further if more time had been devoted to her? Or is that what we're seeing with Barbara? Just, take two. Have you enjoyed any of her modern iterations at the time of this recording? Please let me know. And while you're letting me know, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. I'm Sasha, and thanks so much for taking some time every day to discuss comics with me. I always appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.